What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. We're getting into Crown Jewel talk, and we will be talking about the whole breakdown of the card from top to bottom, our thoughts on what's going to happen, our preview of the matches, and so on and so forth. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, and joining me, as always, are Callum Wiggins.
It's the scariest show of the year.
Not just because it's Halloween, but because it's got many political problems to go along with it. And also, Robert DeFelice.
This is literally the show that puts Trick in Trick or Treat.
This is a show that has so many problems going on with it that I don't even know where to start. But I think that the best way for us to start is to just talk about the controversy. WWE has been under fire from so many different people, so many different outlets, the media, the government, to a certain extent, about just not doing this show in general. And they decided they still want to go along with it. And to a certain extent, I can understand why. To a certain extent, I really don't understand why. How are you guys feeling about this?
Well, not positive on the whole. I've been trying to rationalize this in my mind because it's very difficult when you reach this stage of, well, someone who's followed the WWE for a good 15, nearly 20 years at this point. It's hard to kind of get into this sort of situation and kind of justify why you're still going to watch and support the company. And that's probably the most damning thing about the entire thing, is that it's caused a lot of people to have that same question.
What's really gotten to me, and I've been covering this between both sites that I work for enough time now that I'm at the point of, I just really want to fucking enjoy this card. This is a crazy card, and all we can think about is how stupid it is that they're going to Saudi Arabia when all this shit went down, and how stupid it is that, you know, they're not allowing women there, and they're not even saying anything about the controversy, except we are monitoring it. We understand the difficult decisions. And then you have to sit there and watch all the backlash and the John Oliver stuff and the many senators saying, don't do this show. And I'm at the point where it's like, no, fuck you. This has totally killed my wrestling. And then you get into the whole, do I even want to support this company when clearly they're more money hungry than they are actually morally conscious? I don't know. It's a mess.
I think at the very least, everybody can agree this isn't good. Like, I don't know a single person that's sitting there going like, fuck yeah, WWE should go here. It should be great. It should be this like grandiose thing. They should be.
People. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people
that are like very much like in support. I haven't.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, most of them are linked to the company. But you do hear fads that, I mean, you hear things like JBL going on to Fox News and stuff like that saying, oh, WWE are like going to be bastions of change in Saudi Arabia, so they should go to this show.
Come on.
Randy Orton saying the same thing. Mark Henry saying, oh, it's John Cena and Daniel Bryan should be ashamed of not going. Like, they should stick up for the company. I mean, it's mainly people that are in WWE and are still like, they know where their bread is buttered, essentially.
Let me give you the latest from Randy. Randy was like, oh, John Cena? Oh, he still wrestles? I didn't even know that he pulled out, like, kind of being tongue-in-cheek, like, you know, fuck you for not committing. At least that's the way I'm taking it, is fuck you for not committing and for backing out.
Well, at least with Mark Henry, I can kind of understand. With his point of view, it came off a little bit to me as like, hey, I get paid to do a job. If the company tells me to do it, I'm going to do it because I'm a company man. More so than... Like, if JBL is saying that WWE is going to change anything, they're not changing anything. Come on.
Well, my fundamental issue, I've been trying to obviously get down to the point, mainly to justify why I'm going to watch this show and why I still subscribe to WWE Network and why other things that realistically no morally righteous person would still be doing. I would be understanding if it was just a show in Saudi Arabia. Because at the end of the day, they're a company, they're an entertainment company. They have a right to go to whatever country they want to. it's not their place that if they want to make a big stand about how the death of this journalist or loads of other things to do with Saudi Arabia is terrible. It shouldn't come down to them. It should come down to major political bodies. Should be
Right.
the entire United States that should be the people that are saying stuff like this and should be saying, okay, we don't want. If they just said to WWE, okay, we don't want you working the show and we don't want other businesses doing stuff there, then WWE's hands are tied in that regard. And it shouldn't be. If that comes down to it, then yeah, they should pull out or something along those lines, or it's a bit more understandable. But they shouldn't be held accountable if they would just want to make money in another country that the rest of the world isn't particularly fond of at the moment. My issue with WWE comes with the propaganda side of things, where they're essentially a spokesperson for Saudi Arabia to say they're such a progressive, forward-thinking, wonderful country. They're essentially like Saudi Arabia's tourist board.
Yeah,
And
it's kind of like taking their money forces WWE to feel like they need to defend Saudi Arabia.
well, it's not so much that.
They're
I
going to
think
do that this time though, because they don't even want to say where the show is being held.
it's well. I would not be surprised if that was part of the deal, that they have to do that. I don't think they want to do that, or they feel like they need to be justifying Saudi Arabia. I think it's literally put into the contract that as part of these shows, you should also be advertising how great Saudi Arabia is.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be I don't know if I'm going to reach the point where if I hear Michael Cole utter the phrase "live from beautiful Riyadh, Saudi Arabia," I might just have to shut it off at that point, because after the first propaganda video package, because that's the point where my disgust reaches maximum levels. It's still not great, obviously, with the fact they're participating in the show in the first place. So I would like to think that you've signed $2 billion television deals. Why do you need any more money, essentially? You could have just ripped this off.
Well, I'm of the belief that if they have to, then they're going to just, all right, a match is over, fade to black, and then a package will play. But I can't see them gushing over Saudi Arabia right now.
You know, I'll be really annoyed if they end up spending, for instance, that full kickoff. If that's like what they did before, where they had that whole all the great fun that we had. Here we're playing soccer. Here's like a look at the new changes where women can drive and all this other kind of bullshit. If they do
Here's
that,
the severed head of a journalist, and
right? Yeah. If they do that, it's gonna come off real fucking bad.
But it's already coming off really bad.
I know,
So,
but it's like it'll just take it to the next level. It'll be like there's a certain level of naivete kind of that can be applied to this, where like they haven't really advertised where it's been lately. They kind of like stopped doing that. It used to be like beautiful Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and then it became like Crown Jewel's coming up, like just like that. But once we get to it, if they do start doing that kind of stuff, it's really going to come off as like, look, I get that your hands might be tied a little bit, but at the same time, you're really not making it easy for people to try to defend you, you know?
They're a business. Their purpose is to make money, but they're making more money than they've ever done in their existence, and yet they still want more. And as we've seen in the past, let me put it this way: this isn't going to kill WWE, because if Chris Benoit didn't kill WWE, this is not going to kill him either. But it's going to have an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And it has already led to an effect. There are already been people that have been cancelling the network. Their stock price dropped to, it was hovering around about the 90s. It's now down to 65 or something like that, I think. So people that have decided to buy into WWE because their stock price was going through the roof, probably, well, they might be throwing themselves off buildings at this point now. But
now would be a good time to invest. Well, it's low. Get in there now, and then when they raise again, make it kill him.
Yeah.
It depends how much it rises coming off this, because we don't know what the long-term ramifications of this are going to be yet.
And let's be honest about something too. This is something that I get into every time that we're on like an election cycle and stuff. And November, of course, is election time. One vote doesn't matter. And I know that the philosophy that everybody applies, which is true, by the way, that if everybody agreed that one vote doesn't matter, then it would matter. But one person individually disabling their WWE Network subscription changes nothing. It literally changes nothing. And you can't be as egotistical enough to think that, you know, I'm going to cancel the network and WWE is going to be so fucking sorry, because they don't give a shit about you. But if, you know, the stock price drops a third, that's a big, big deal. And that means that more and more and more people are doing that one vote type of thing. And it's the easiest way to prove to a company that they're doing something wrong is to vote with your wallet. That goes with every type of possible business that's out there. If Walmart raises their prices and people stop going to Walmart, they realize that that's the issue and they need to lower their prices. Of course, most companies just raise their prices afterward and then they go out of business, but you know, that's how fucking stupid capitalism works. If there are more people seeing movies, then production companies start to go, well, you know what? A lot of people are really checking out horror movies right now. We should do a lot more of them. Or, you know, a lot of people are seeing these big budget action films. Let's produce more. Nobody's going to see small indie dramas about real estate. So we're not going to, you know, whatever. It's like you vote with your wallet. And if you're the type of person who has canceled the WWE Network based off of Crown Jewel, your one individual thing does not matter. But if you are one of several 100,000, it does matter a lot. And whatever money that they were able to get from this deal, they could end up losing significantly more because they went along with it than if they would have just backed out. Because if you lose all those network subscribers, who's to say that they're going to return? And what effort do you have to put out there to get them back? And how are you going to get the stock prices back up? How are you going to get this goodwill back built? Because it's not even like Evolution is coming up after this. They already just brushed that away. So you can't take Crown Jewel and then go, yeah, but we've got all this goodwill with Evolution.
Well, that's like...
That's what they tried to do, though.
They tried to do it, but they did it the opposite direction. They brushed that aside right now, and now Survivor Series is coming up after this, and it's going to be like...
I think timing is a bitch, and I think they thought the only controversy they would have to deal with would be the women.
Mm-hmm.
And they thought, well, if we give them Evolution 5 days before, then there's no problem. But with, you know, this murder now, they can't talk their way out of this one.
I'd argue even though that they should have had the foresight to put Evolution after Crown Jewel anyway.
Yeah, they should have.
Because it really should have been a matter of, I mean, I know that like their scheduling and stuff, they had to throw that into the mix as quickly as possible type of thing, but there had to at least be somebody behind the scenes that was like, you know what though, people remember what happened most recently more than they remember what just happened. And Evolution's like, yay, we did something where it's an all-women's card to offset the Saudi Arabian thing that we did earlier in the year, and then now we're doing another all-men's show. And it's like, it takes the philosophy of the goodwill out of the mix, because right when you did something good, you did something bad again. It's almost kind of like today's Halloween. If you hear any like doorbell ringing and dog barking type stuff, by the way, everybody, that's going to be because people are going around trick-or-treating. But imagine you're a kid for Halloween. You're going around, you're dressed up, you're getting candy, this is all great. And you finally get to one of those houses and they have the king-size bars. You know, the fucking crown jewel of Halloween, so to speak. And you get that king-size bar and people are like, all right, happy Halloween. And then they punch you in the stomach. Your big takeaway is going to be, yeah, that fucking guy just hit me in the stomach. As opposed to, yeah, but I got that king-size crunch bar. You know, like, now if they punch you in the stomach and they give you the king-size bar, you're going to go, motherfucker, punch me in the stomach. At least you got a king-size bar out of it. That's just how the brains, you know, in humans work. So all that goodwill built up from Evolution thrown out the window. Now we're in Crown Jewel, and they're going to have to do 10 times as much work to kind of offset this than if they would have just canceled it. However, not to ramble too much, but I have to admit, we don't know all the details. there could be some kind of big contract snafu where if they would have backed out of this, it would have cost them $700 million.
I think the number was, the only reported number was something to the effect of like 16 million for just this show.
And that's like, it's a tough call. And morally, I think everybody should be on the side of fuck Saudi Arabia. But if you're on a business side of things, I can understand where there's a little bit of like, we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't. Because imagine if they would have backed out of Crown Jewel and the stock prices would have dropped anyway, you know? Here's the real thing. Don't get in bed with Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
That's the fucking foresight. Don't do business with a company or country that has this kind of stuff where it's a possibility that it could happen, you know?
Well, I think with the amazing progression, I think you guys will agree with me, of women being allowed to drive, that they thought, oh, now is a great time to get in bed with Saudi Arabia. They're so progressive.
Kind of like we can hitch our wagon to it and pretend like we're causing all that change.
Yeah.
I do. There's some perverse side of me that believes that they believe that they're forcing change in Saudi Arabia, or they're going to be the beacons of change in Saudi Arabia, or at least some of them do. The other ones just know they're in it for the money, but I believe some of them are so warped in their thinking, they actually think this is actually going to be a positive.
You can't convince me.
Well, no, you can't convince any sane person, but as we've seen, very few of those people in the company are sane. So
yeah, we're talking about a company that's like, what do we do with Mark Henry? I don't know. We can put him together with Mae Young, and they can have a hand as a kid and like shit like that.
Yeah.
So.
And it's just a sense of like some of them will genuinely believe that, and they don't just realize that they're just a wrestling promotion. They can only do so much, and like the biggest. Well, I don't say biggest, but one of the big takeaways for all of this is just a sense of you can't really put a monetary value on goodwill. You can kind of estimate how much it's going to hurt and how much it's going to improve based on your actions. But you can just imagine the situation of, okay, they decide to cancel this event, and I'm kind of the belief that if they cancelled this event, it would have just been cancelled. They wouldn't have rescheduled it or anything like that. I know it would have disappointed a lot of people, but I don't think they would have been willing to pay what I assume Shawn Michaels and
Brock Lesnar,
the Undertaker and Brock Lesnar are taking out of this event.
Yeah.
But in place of that, they would have put more focus onto Evolution. They would have been building that more succinctly than they actually ended up doing. And the show would have, it was already a great success, but it would have been an even better success than what it already was. Then they'd be riding this huge wave of positive goodwill. Some people would have been disappointed that Shawn Michaels would be going back, or the other elements of the show and stuff like that. But they would say, oh, we've still got Survivor Series coming up, and we're going to get Universal Champion against AJ Styles or Samoa Joe or something like that, and we're going to get Shinsuke Nakamura against Seth Rollins, and this Dean Ambrose turn has been pretty cool and stuff like that. So there'll still be a lot of positives going forward, but this is just a big black hole of controversy and difficulty for WWE to have to navigate.
Now, I'm of the belief that at least the tag team match would have happened at Survivor Series, because you're dealing with 4 real vets of the industry, and they would have made it work. But
yeah, I think that they would have been able to potentially take Undertaker, Kane, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels and said, guys, can you please just do this at Survivor Series and not get as much of a paycheck? And they probably would have.
Absolutely. But I also think that they would have garnered so much favor from their other, partnerships. The children's cancer thing, the breast cancer thing, all of that becomes even more important now, because you're like, hey, this is a company with real moral values. I do support them supporting the fight against pediatric cancer. I do support them supporting Susan G. Komen, because they're proven to be really, morally strong, and they just shit all over that.
You call him Susan G. Komen morally strong?
No, she's not. No, that there is a lot of controversy with that.
There's one of the biggest issues around it, and I know I shit on Stephanie McMahon a lot, but it was her tweet that came out essentially saying philanthropy is the new marketing. It's the way businesses are going to win. And as soon as she tweeted that out, or she retweeted it from someone else that tweeted it, but she retweeted it, and essentially from that moment on, I can't believe anything that WWE does is genuine anymore. I can't believe that they do things because they genuinely want to help people or charity things, because she sees philanthropy as marketing. So she only wants to do good things because it makes WWE look good.
Now, granted, she has the title of Chief Brand Officer, so
I know that's her job, but like...
I'm just saying, so you know that what they do has that flavor, that disingenuous flavor.
Yeah, and I'm fine with companies like wanting to build up their own reputation as long as it helps other people and they're giving money to like good causes, because at the end of the day, it's still those people don't care whether they're doing it to make them like look good or not. They're still getting the money from them, and like nobody else is going to give them that sort of money.
Mixed match challenge. It was like, all right, like we want to do something for Facebook Watch to see if that's a viable avenue for future programming, but we're going to do it for charity, and we're going to give away $150,000 or whatever it was. And I was like, all right, well, at least you're giving away to charity. This time around, the second time, they're just not, you know, it's like...
Well, it's just because, like, the ends often justify the means, so it's like a sense of... It's fine if they're going to give money to people less fortunate because, even if it is just for the purpose of making them, like, look good in front of their investors or the fans or whoever. But with things like Susan G. Komen, they're not actually giving money to anything that's helping anybody. They're just giving it to an entertainment organisation, so it doesn't really matter anyway. But I don't know how much goodwill or how much making up they're going to have to do for this one.
Also, let's kind of split the difference when it comes to a little bit of praise and a little bit of pity and a little bit of still chastising. But how bad do you feel for certain people in WWE right now that are stuck between a rock and a hard place, where it's kind of like, say, for instance, the creative team?
I feel terrible for them. I would hate to be any of them.
They are equal parts clearly lazy because they are just like, let's copy and paste things. Like this current situation for this particular week that they're in does not excuse what they've been for 2018. 2018 has been a mess. You've had feuds that have been dragging out for months when they shouldn't have. You had instances like AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura that they put no fucking effort into. For some reason, they decided they wanted to kill Asuka at WrestleMania. You've got Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. You built that up for an entire year when nobody didn't want it, and then said, no, we're still not going to pull the trigger. We're going to wait another 5 months to do that. Like, there's no excuse. The creative team responsible for that kind of stuff sucks. However, I will sympathize with them a little bit. If you're the type of person who's trying, and you're the guy that's trying to appeal to Vince McMahon and stuff, going, how about we try something different? How about we try to figure out a game plan for things instead of doing shit on the fly? And you've been struggling to figure out how to book SummerSlam, Hell in a Cell, Super Showdown, Evolution, Crown Jewel, and Survivor Series, when Battleground and No Mercy and Clash of Champions are thrown out the window, and Roman Reigns falls from his position as the top dog because of leukemia, and there's this kind of an issue and that kind of an issue and that kind of an issue, and this changes and that person's injured and this person's out and this person comes in and that person's got a controversy and Hulk Hogan's doing this and what. It's insane. And I don't fault that there's at least some people that are in the company right now, I'm sure, that are looking at this as like, I'm in a madhouse and I have no idea what to do because the people that are in charge are not letting me do my job. But at the same time, they want me to. And you know what I mean? Like, I can understand if you're somebody on creative right now and you've been trying and you're getting nowhere. At the same time, though, I mean, let's not mince any words here. you put the World Cup tournament together and you go, I don't know, it's fucking World Cup. They didn't get the World Cup in Saudi Arabia. Let's do World Cup. What do we do with it? I don't know. It's the best in the world. It's like, you're not putting any effort into that. And I get it. It's a paid for show. You don't need to put any effort into it to really be like, let's kill ourselves by spending all night thinking of things. But, I mean, let's talk about the World Cup tournament. You're calling it the World Cup tournament, and every single person who's competing in it is American.
I'm gonna err on the side of maybe they really like soccer over there. Maybe they said, we want a World Cup tournament, and we want you to call it that, and that's that.
And that sucks that they would have to take that kind of an initiative to be like, all right, well, you're paying for it, so we're going to do it. But let's just put it this way. We haven't discussed this ahead of time, and we haven't tried to fantasy book things. Somebody tells you, all right, book a World Cup tournament. Would you guys at least have people that are from around the world?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, at least, Shinsuke
Nakamura, a guy who has not taken part of Hell in a Cell, Super Showdown, or this event, could be representing Japan.
I would put Pete Dunne in there, or somebody to represent, the UK side of things.
Well, Drew McIntyre could do that.
Right. Thank you. I was thinking
Drew McIntyre, a guy who's not on the card, even though he's supposed to be a big deal right now. You've got Andrade Cien Almas.
Got Sheamus and Cesaro.
Cesaro.
Yeah,
Finn Balor. Finn Balor's not a part of this.
Jinder Mahal.
Jinder Mahal could have been a part of it. Samoa Joe could have been a part of it, even though he's technically from California, right?
But then,
yeah. But you could stretch it to the Isle of Samoa if you wanted to.
I'm going to be that guy who says, clearly this is a directive from them, and they want people from that, 2002 to 2011 gap of superstars.
Oh, if this company was able to pick everybody, I mean, based off of what happened before, they were wanting Yokozuna and shit. They'd be like, hey, let's do a World Cup tournament. I think that the participants should be Steve Austin, Chris Benoit, Bret Hart, Goldberg. They would be doing that kind of crap.
Well, there was an actual report that said that somebody from Saudi Arabia was like, hey, can you put the belt on The Rock before you come here?
Well, Rusev. Why is Rusev not in this?
I think I don't know, but you kind of get the sense of once they decided they were going to do mostly Americans, they thought, might as well just do all Americans instead. I don't understand, but there is a definite sense that the majority of people who are wrestling in the World Cup tournament were around in WWE around about 2005, 2006. And they've been pretty much around ever since. Kurt Angle's obviously taken a long hiatus. Mysterio's been in and out of the company and stuff like that, and Jeff Hardy as well. But it's still people that were around in a time where more people were watching, and seemingly that's where the majority, or at least the higher ups in Saudi Arabia, have their fandom, and they don't really care about the new stuff. That's kind of it. Yeah, well, they're fans of nostalgia, and essentially this is essentially like their prince's birthday party. It's like, yeah, you can get whatever you want. Yeah, you want.
I want chocolate and vanilla ice cream. Okay, we'll get a mix.
I mean, wouldn't you want John Cena at your birthday party?
Yeah.
At least it'd be colorful.
Oh yeah, you get all the different colors.
Does that mean he's gonna throw a tantrum because he's not getting John Cena at his birthday party?
I'm sure he got a little bit huffed about it. It's very so. Maybe they had to make some sort of sacrifices for it as well. It's like, okay, so you couldn't get John Cena, so that means, but you're getting Bobby Lashley. Yeah, Bobby Lashley.
Well, as far as this World Cup is, this is going to be the bulk of the card. And we know that John Cena has been replaced with Bobby Lashley. And before we talk about the other people, how do you guys feel about that? Do you think Bobby Lashley's the right choice for the replacement?
Somebody on the WrestleZone live chat tried to tell me that Elias should replace John Cena. So while I'm not the biggest fan of Lashley, I do like him a little bit more now that he's got Leo Rush. But Lashley wasn't a good replacement for Cena for me in 07. And he sure as hell isn't in 2018.
Lashley's been such a bust since joining WWE. And part of it is on him because I don't think he's had one good match, which was against Roman Reigns. And Roman Reigns has good matches to pretty much everybody, so that's kind of more on his side. And then since then, it's just been like a really botched fate, like starting as a baby face, and then this heel turn has made him slightly more interesting, but his matches have not gone any better, and it's mainly Leo Rush who's the entertaining one, not him. So I can't say it's the wrong choice, because if I had my way, nobody would be going to the show anyway, or you'd be putting someone who can put on better matches like McIntyre or Balor or somebody like that in the match instead.
We got to figure oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it doesn't really bother me too much.
Well, first of all, shout out to Seth Rollins for being the only superstar to have debuted in this decade to be in this World Cup tournament. So shout out to him. And then I'm mad that John Cena's not in the thing. I was looking forward to some random ass John Cena matches from my teenage years, okay? And
to be honest, I don't think I would have enjoyed it because, well, from what we've seen of John Cena recently, he's pretty much just phoning it in.
Yeah,
it's a giant meme.
Which means it would just be a sense of he'd get beaten down, but not like thrown around too much for about 5-10 minutes, just like stomps and kicks in the corner and stuff like that, just stuff that he could easily sell. And then he hits his 6 moves of doom now, and then he'll just win.
I hate that move so much.
Oh yeah, so in that regard, I'm happy that he's not on the card because he clearly his heart isn't in it anymore. I don't want to say like his heart isn't in WWE. He's clearly conflicted, and he's realizing that he's got a new shiny toy that he can work with, which is his fledgling movie career, and he doesn't want to jeopardize that for anything.
You think he sends The Rock text messages every day like, dude, I'm so sorry for everything I ever said about you?
I'm just thinking like which WWE superstar is going to come out and say that John Cena's left and like gone to Hollywood and stuff like that, and then will eventually 10 years down the line also go to Hollywood, and then another superstar will come in and say that one's gone to Hollywood, and then it'll just be like
I think that was Roman's job, unfortunately.
Oh yeah.
The Miz? I don't know. They've already had that kind of feud.
Yeah.
I'll give credit to where when WWE was replacing John Cena, at least they gave Bobby Lashley the spot with like a way to kind of get some heat on Baron Corbin. And they could have done, it's basically kind of like this. They could have done things better in a lot of different regards, but they could have done things a lot worse. And if you're going to be stupid enough to get in bed with Saudi Arabia and be stupid enough to do something like the World Cup and be stupid enough to do this and be stupid enough to do that and be stupid enough to do that, and you go down the list of all these other kind of things, then, you know, say Monday morning WWE said, hey, Tony, you've got a job on creative. By the way, John Cena's not going to do the World Cup. What do you want to do? I probably would have done something like what they did with Bobby Lashley, where it's like, all right, we beat the shit out of Finn Balor. We have Baron Corbin give him a spot. That way it gets heat on Lashley, gets heat on Baron Corbin. And
surprisingly enough,
you know,
they didn't lie. They didn't have to like really stretch the truth. They just said, hey, John Cena didn't qualify. Fuck him. You qualified.
Right. It wasn't like, well, John Cena called me up earlier and he said that he has a scheduling conflict, or, you know, yeah, it's not something like that. So I'll give them a little bit of credit for that. But at the same time, if you would have told me that I had to book a World Cup, I would have been like, all right, first step is let's make sure it's got people from around different countries. And that annoys the crap out of me that, like, there really is no reason why Balor, Nakamura, Almas, Rusev, McIntyre, these guys should be a part of this card. Other than the idea that they're just like,
because they just
want the older guys.
Yeah, like the Miz got into this thing, and I was thinking, how the hell did the Miz get into it? And then I thought, well, because 2010, 2011, Miz was a big deal. That's probably how the Miz got into this thing.
And that's just a shitty set of circumstances and stuff. And it means that this whole tournament means nothing. And whoever wins it they could spin it into something, but they're probably not going to. Because look at what happened at the Greatest Royal Rumble. Braun Strowman won that. They gave him a title. They never showed the title again. It never meant anything.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I had the same issue with the Greatest Royal Rumble. Is it too much to put stakes on something? Like, just say, like they did with that stupid Battle Royale at Evolution. This is for a future title shot. Huzzah! Yeah. Like,
yeah, look, I'm all for putting stakes on things, especially if it's my plate. But I'm starving. At least they did this thing on SmackDown last night where they were saying, Shane McMahon said to everybody who didn't watch SmackDown, he said, look, on the SmackDown side of things, if you are the guy that gets into the finals and you lose to the person on Raw, I'm excommunicating you from the roster. You're gone from SmackDown.
I like that.
So that puts a little bit of pressure on there. That means that at least in the sense of, it matters.
Well, I hope it's not an empty threat like last year at Survivor Series. The year before, when Taker was like, you better win and beat Team Raw, or I'm coming back here and kicking your ass.
Well, they did beat Team Raw that year.
Well, okay.
So well, then it would be the empty threat of Vince McMahon saying if Shane McMahon loses, he's gone.
Yes.
And the whole lockbox type thing. And then it became, yeah, you lost anyway, but here's fucking SmackDown.
That's realistic. He's like, all right, I said I wasn't going to give you this thing, but you're my son and I love you. Here, have Raw.
Well, doesn't just make it like, I don't want to say like plain the obvious because they can obviously do anything in this regard, but hasn't it made it like pretty predictable that a SmackDown guy is probably going to win it?
Well, I've been saying Randy Orton.
Minute
one.
I looked at like before they even had this split between Raw and SmackDown on there, which supposedly, by the way, the reason why they are splitting it between Raw and SmackDown is to do a preview of the Raw and SmackDown brand warfare, which that I'll give credit to as well. Pretty smart move to kind of tease that. You know, I'll give you a little tip of the hat when it comes to that. But even before they did that, I mean, these are the people that are involved in the World Cup tournament. We got Bobby Lashley, who should have been John Cena, Dolph Ziggler, Kurt Angle, Jeff Hardy, The Miz, Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio, and Seth Rollins. Already from that list beforehand, before they announced the bracket, I was looking at this as Dolph Ziggler has no chance of winning whatsoever.
No.
As per usual.
Kurt Angle can get some kind of an interference from Baron Corbin, and that's why he can lose. Jeff Hardy has no chance of winning this. The Miz is a heel who can easily lose. He's got no chance of winning this unless they use that as a means for him to challenge AJ Styles. Randy Orton's got a solid shot. John Cena could win if it means nothing, but now he's not John Cena anymore. He's Bobby Lashley, so Bobby Lashley's probably not going to win. Rey Mysterio's got a solid shot. Seth Rollins can get screwed over by Dean Ambrose. So it pretty much has to be they either give the win to Bobby Lashley and use that as a means to propel him to Universal title feud with Braun Strowman. But that goes completely against what the original plan was because he wasn't even in the goddamn tournament. Or they give it to a SmackDown guy.
Well, now here's another thought. Shane McMahon says, I will excommunicate you. Not for nothing, but with Roman out, Raw could really use Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio. Hell, even Jeff Hardy and The Miz.
Not more than what SmackDown needs, though.
Yeah, they'd have to trade someone over to
However, Raw is the A show and always means more.
But you can't make SmackDown look too bad in the means while you're building up to this Fox thing. Because if the SmackDown ratings tank because they got rid of, like, Daniel Bryan or something like that, you know, whatever, then that next year they're going to be really screwed. Because you got to think of WrestleMania, too. That's the other thing is... And WrestleMania plans are all up in the world because it's kind of like all up in the world. Doesn't make any sense. I see World Cup on my screen. That's why I said that. They're all up in hell because it's kind of like, well, shit, we had planned on Roman Reigns. Now we can't do that. So, you know, to repeat myself from earlier, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Like, there's no way that they can get out of this without having some blood spilled.
And then let's get into the matches. Like, I was so looking forward to this before just the shit hit the fan. Like, this should at least provide some fun wrestling matches and this really just inconsequential but really fun wrestling show.
Well, we got the bracket is Dolph Ziggler, Kurt Angle.
That should be good. I wish it was 2012,
Yeah.
but it should still be good.
If this was Kurt Angle in his prime against Dolph Ziggler when he cared, this would be amazing. But Kurt Angle's winning that, right?
Yeah, Kurt Angle's winning.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's an easy win for Kurt Angle. Seth Rollins and Bobby Lashley. To me, that strikes me as Seth Rollins beats Bobby Lashley because Kurt Angle has said before he wants to fight Seth Rollins.
Speaking selfishly, I've seen Lashley and Angle, and they've been decent matches in TNA, but I would rather watch Kurt Angle versus Seth Rollins while I have the opportunity to, and while they don't need to try to build it. You could just do this match, have the dream match, have Kurt Angle catch his ankle as he's coming down for the curb stomp in a very brutal fashion, and I think Kurt Angle could potentially go to the finals.
I think Seth Rollins will beat Lashley. It's up in the air, that one. That one's a lot closer than the Kurt Angle Dolph Ziggler one to me.
For sure, because, I mean, if you have Seth Rollins and Kurt Angle, what happens when it comes to the potential of the Baron Corbin and the Dean Ambrose interference?
Well, it's the issue with, like, would Baron Corbin want to screw Kurt Angle and help Seth Rollins? Because he doesn't like both of them.
Right.
Whereas Dean Ambrose has no issue with Kurt Angle whatsoever, so he could just interfere and take out Seth Rollins. And
Well,
Kurt
but
Angle
by that logic, maybe he helps Ziggler. And don't get me wrong, I do not want to see Dolph Ziggler win that match, but maybe he helps Ziggler.
Well, and then there's also the other question is, are they going to let Kurt Angle wrestle 3 times on this show?
Why not?
Because he's in his 50s now, and he's as broken down as anybody.
How old is Kurt Angle?
He's either late 40s.
He's 49, I think.
Yeah,
wow.
49.
Okay, maybe I'll shut up.
And with like a multiple time broken neck, so.
And on top of that too, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense with
good enough to win the World Cup, Callum.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense with the Raw and SmackDown thing too. If Baron Corbin, for instance, like let's just say Seth Rollins beats Bobby Lashley, Kurt Angle beats Dolph Ziggler. Baron Corbin can't interfere and cost Kurt Angle that match at the same time that Seth Rollins has cost that match from Dean Ambrose. So that just then it's a no contest. Neither wins, and SmackDown wins by default. So you can't do that. So that would mean a babyface would win because of a distraction from a heel in either scenario with Kurt Angle and Seth Rollins. Then that's not good. Also, it would mean if you have Kurt Angle or Seth Rollins, like for instance, Seth Rollins, Kurt Angle is the semifinals. Dean Ambrose comes in, screws Seth Rollins. Kurt Angle doesn't even know what's going on, whatever the case may be, blah, blah, blah. Kurt Angle's in the finals. Baron Corbin screws him. Why would Baron Corbin not want a Raw guy to win? And why would SmackDown be like, yay, Rey Mysterio won from Baron Corbin? Like, there's no way to book babyface versus babyface where there's people that interfere and then that way it ends up working out. The only way that works out is The Miz wins on the SmackDown side of things, and Baron Corbin or Dean Ambrose screws Seth Rollins or Kurt Angle, and The Miz capitalizes off of that. That's the only way that works. Well, but I honestly think that The Miz is going to beat Jeff Hardy and then lose to Rey Mysterio.
You think Rey's going to beat Randy?
I think Rey's winning this.
I don't know. I think I've had a feeling that Randy would win it, and I think it'll come down to Randy and Kurt Angle because in their minds, in Saudi Arabia, it's 2006 and they can do this. And I think Randy Orton will beat Kurt Angle and become the best in the world. And that's buy that tagline. Of all the taglines, knowing that you've had Jericho use it, you've had Punk use it, and not just use it, but you beat it into everybody's heads that this is their thing. Why the tagline of "You're gonna be the best in the world"?
Because it's the simplest, laziest thing to do. That's
Yeah.
got to be it.
That's probably it, yeah. I mean, it's also bad enough that there's neither world champion is competing in this tournament to crown the best in the world. And there's no world champion in it, so...
Well, first of all, the Universal Champion is the best in the universe, so that trumps the world.
What if they're like, all right, it's called the World Cup. What can we do based off of that? And somebody's like, cup. And somebody else is like, I don't know, best in the world. And they're like, yeah, I had best in the cup, but that makes a lot more sense. Like, at the very least, like, I mean, let's put it down this way. We know Dolph Ziggler's not winning. There's no chance that Dolph Ziggler wins this. Agreed?
Yeah.
I would say there's more of a chance that Dolph Ziggler wins than Jeff Hardy even. So I would rule out Jeff Hardy.
Yeah, I'd say Jeff Hardy's unlikely.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much everybody else has at least a chance.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I would say the person who stands to gain the most is Bobby Lashley.
Yeah.
Who would you say instead?
I mean,
I think if you want Ray to come back with a huge bang, then he's the one that probably has the most to gain from it. But there's also the argument that Randy Orton's been doing so much recently that he kind of needs a big thing to like tip him over the edge and launch him back into the main event scene of SmackDown.
yeah, that's why I would say I'm going with Randy as my pick. I hitched my wagon to Lashley for the Greatest Royal Rumble, and I do admit that I would love the obnoxiousness of Leo Rush yelling, "He's the best in the world! Lashley!
He's the best in the world."
Lashley!" But I don't know, I'm going with Randy. Either way, though, it's going to be fun. I want to be able to enjoy this, and I hope that it's not too riddled with like, and here's Baron Corbin interfering, and here's Dean Ambrose interfering, even though I don't think Ambrose is going, but he might because his wife is going, which we didn't talk about.
Actually, yeah, that's something. We'll talk about that when we pick up after this. But I would say this, like, this doesn't mean anything for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the type of thing that WWE could, if they wanted to, they could turn this into something that means something, because somebody like a Bobby Lashley, he needs some kind of a win to really make himself seem like a viable contender for that Universal Championship. And if they wanted to, they could have him win this, and he can use that to be like, all right, at Survivor Series or at TLC or the Royal Rumble or whatever, I'm the World Cup tournament winner. I want to challenge Braun Strowman. They could do that. I don't think it's going to happen, especially because he wasn't even in the tournament before.
But spoiler alert, the arena for TLC is already announcing Strowman versus McIntyre.
That seems the more likely scenario, so that is another reason to rule out Bobby Lashley. Seth Rollins, he's got the Intercontinental Championship and the Tag Team Championship, kind of. He's got a feud built in with Dean Ambrose. He's a Monday Night Raw guy, which hurts the idea of the SmackDown guy winning this. I don't think that Rollins has a chance. But they could do this as a story to get Kurt Angle something, just to kind of make him seem a little bit more special. They could give this to The Miz and then give him that's the reason why he can challenge AJ Styles at TLC. And he's the SmackDown guy, so it makes sense. And that allows them the possibility to have him win through some kind of bullshit with Dean Ambrose or Baron Corbin. They could give it to Randy Orton because he's an older guy and because he's a heel who could always use some kind of a win like this, and he's a SmackDown guy. Or they could give it to Rey Mysterio because he's newer. He can be reestablished that way. He's a babyface, so people will pop. He's an older guy, and he's the SmackDown guy. It's kind of like, for a World Cup tournament that means nothing, that has no worldwide presence, they could go in a lot of different directions. I think, gun to my head, I'm going to go Rey Mysterio.
Gun to my head, I'm going
Randy Orton. Callum, who are you picking?
The final, I think, will be Seth Rollins against The Miz, and The Miz is going to win.
Okay, so that shows like that it's all up in the air. Who fucking knows? That's basically what that
The Miz
is.
will win, and he'll use that essentially as he'll use the fact that he's quote unquote the best in the world to taunt Daniel Bryan, and that will lead into a WWE Championship match at TLC.
I can see that being the case. Yeah. Now
Well,
Renee
like,
Young.
with who?
Well, Styles, yeah.
Which we'll discuss that later. But
yeah, well,
Yeah.
we'll get to Styles in a little
Styles,
bit, but
it will be Styles.
real quick though, we talked about the pre-show. They are going to have a kickoff for an hour. There's no match for it, so I'm assuming it's full on pre-show panel analysis, video packages, some kind of commercial for Saudi Arabia.
The match is all of us wrestling our conscience.
Yeah, but Renee Young is supposed to be doing this, and they have not necessarily specified how that's supposed to work because she wasn't able to the last time. And I guess she's doing commentary, but maybe she's doing the pre-show and they haven't specified it because that's the scenario. Maybe Booker T's filling in or something, or they're going to have like Byron Saxton or whatever. And she's just doing the pre-show, and they can kind of write that off as like, well, she's working Saudi Arabia with a pre-show, but that way the Saudi Arabian people aren't pissed off because it's a pre-show. Maybe that's what they're going to do.
I don't know. I think it's crazy that she's being allowed to do this in the middle of all of this controversy. Maybe this was a
throw me a bone type thing.
Yeah, move by WWE to be like, hey, let us do this. Let us try to establish some point of progression so we have something positive to say. But I will say, in defense of WWE, really damned if you do, damned if you don't, because once they announced that Renee was doing this, everybody crapped all over Renee on social media saying, how can you just come from a historic show like Evolution and then agree to go over there and work this heinous show? And so on some level, you have to kind of understand why they would look at some of these comments and just go, we got to pick our battles, and we're going with Saudi Arabia here.
Well, in defense of Renee, if you're the type of person who wants to criticize that, why is she going over there? If she doesn't go over there, there's no woman working the event. So do you go over and you provide at least some proof that, hey, I'm the first woman to be able to do this kind of a thing, and hope that maybe that's a good sign for the future, even though you're supporting something that's bad? Or do you back out based off of your morals and undo that little bit of progression too? I side with Renee on it.
I do as well.
I don't have any more ill will towards Renee than I do anybody else that's participating in the show.
Yeah.
In the sense that I wish more people would have taken the Daniel Bryan, John Cena route, but at the end of the day, they know that they're not John Cena, so they can't. Their positions are in jeopardy.
Not only are they not John Cena, but they're also not the ones making the shots.
Yeah, exactly.
Calling the shots, I should say. They're not making the decisions.
Nobody's making shots in Saudi Arabia. That's illegal.
Breaking news. Hulk Hogan was on this card, off this card, but now he's officially been confirmed as the host of Crown Jewel.
Oh, that sounds about right.
Huh. Okay.
What a great way to make this even more like hate-filled and disgusting as show. But, well, brother, I'm so excited to be here in beautiful Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
Oh, I'm so excited that
all my Hulkamaniacs in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I'm so excited that we're over here, brother, and we're taking over the world, and we're changing the world. That I love Saudi Arabia.
Remember to eat your vitamins and slay your journalists.
What if Mr. America wins the Best in the World Cup tournament?
He should have replaced John Cena. If he's even going to be on it, you might as well just replace John Cena.
This is so bad.
This is a fucking mess. This is such a goddamn mess. I don't even know where to what do we like? And I will say too, you know, I've made the argument before that I think that Hulk Hogan should be brought back into the mix, but it's a touchy subject, and I get it when people say that they don't forgive Hulk Hogan. I get it, and I know that I'm a white guy, so I can't really talk on it the same as what anybody would be that would be like more hurt by the situation like that. I totally understand that. In my regard, to a certain extent, you have to forgive people, and I guess I'm a little bit more willing to do that, but fuck WWE, like, come on, man. You are working with so little here.
Yeah. With the Hogan thing, I'm willing to forgive people that want to be forgiven. I'm not willing to forgive people that just want to be famous again.
Yeah, that too. Like, for what little publicity that they have working for them on this crown jewel, which is extremely little at this point.
This is the worst possible moment they could have done this.
It doesn't help that they would do that. No, not at all. Like,
they should have announced him doing something for maybe, I don't know, the Christmas Raw or the New Year's Raw, or
bring him back for the Hall of Fame. People will be more accepting for it because he's a Hall of Famer.
But holy shit!
You don't go like, hey, I know you're mad at us for supporting the Saudi Arabian show, and I know that you're mad at us that we don't have Roman on the card, and I know that you're mad at us that Daniel Bryan's not on the card, and I know that you're mad at us for John Cena not being on the card, and I know that you're mad at us for the World Cup not meaning anything, and I know that you're mad at us for not having Americans on the non-Americans on the World Cup thing, and I know that you're mad at us because this DX and Brothers of Destruction thing kind of flies in the face a little bit of Shawn Michaels' retirement. And I know that you're mad at us for a mayor going over to Saudi Arabia. And I know that you're mad at us for the way that we've been booking things for almost the entirety of 2018, especially the past couple of months where we've been kind of crapping on a lot of our cards and splitting the difference. And I know that you're mad at us because we didn't put a whole lot into Evolution. But we got that racist guy on here. It's like, oh, fuck you. Like, and that's speaking from somebody who's trying to see why they are doing the Saudi Arabian show and trying to see how we can bring Hulk Hogan back onto the card. But let's be honest, this is not working out well.
I am a real Arabian.
Oh, please tell me he fights the Iron Sheik. Okay.
Just do it. Just fucking turn into the Skid. Just have Hulk Hogan fucking...
I'm gonna break your back and make you humble.
Cancel the New Day versus the Bar and just book that and just go. That's what they tell you to do when you start skidding on the road. If you turn into the Skid, and it's like, you know, your car is going to spin around. And I've had this happen before, by the way. I was driving on the road one day. It was an icy patch. My car literally did a full spin around to where I was facing the right side of the road after spinning around, and it works. If you turn into the Skid, you're better off than if you turn away and you fucking flip the car or something like that. Just go with it. Just have fucking Sergeant Slaughter come back as an Iraqi sympathizer. Just have, just whatever. Just do it. You should burn the fucking thing down and.
You should dig up Yokozuna so he can get his win back from King of the Ring 93.
Have somebody pretend to be Yokozuna.
Get that same wrestler you got for the Greatest Royal Rumble. And just do
have Damien Sandow come out and be, Damien Sandow's version of Yokozuna. Fucking whatever. It's a mess as it is. Just say, sometimes when you're making a movie, it turns out to be a shitty movie and you go, you know what? We're making The Room. You know what? Make this The Room of WWE pay-per-views. Turn it into the worst thing since Dismember or whatever.
I think you need Trump to appear if that was the case.
Fucking have him do it too.
That doesn't happen.
Just do it. Have Linda McMahon come out and introduce Donald Trump and have him beat up somebody pretending to be Rosie O'Donnell and
and get one of your only female wrestlers to appear on the card and get to suck him off during the thing or whatever. Just really.
It's not like you're walking out of this without negatives anyway. Just write it off as a non-canon show that didn't exist.
And just have someone cut a promo in the middle of the thing say, yeah, I'm glad Roman got leukemia.
Oh my god, this is a mess.
I'm trying to create the worst possible show.
This is a fucking mess.
Yeah.
Well, AJ Styles is fighting Samoa Joe. Daniel Bryan decided that he didn't want to go to the show. I don't blame him for it, because who would want to be attributed with all this kind of nonsense? And as much as Samoa Joe versus AJ Styles has happened 5 fucking times this year or something, and there's no way in hell you're going to convince me that Samoa Joe has a shot at winning this championship. At least they could have done worse. Although, if I were the one booking things, I would have said, let's use this as an opportunity to get Andrade Cien Almas a title shot. And just do that. But Samoa Joe is fighting AJ Styles. The feud is basically, hey, we're not done yet, even though we were done. And Styles is going to beat Samoa Joe, right?
Well, I do want to say the match last night was really good. I'm very surprised by the finish with Bryan tapping out clean.
That's given me the impression that Bryan's down in the title picture. I think this is going to come back to haunt him.
Yeah.
And I'm completely behind his decision. I think most of the WWE fan base is behind his decision, and it's totally his right to decide that he does want to appear on this show. But you know how petty WWE can get over these sort of things. I'd be surprised. Any plans of Bryan winning the Rumble, or Bryan fighting for the title at WrestleMania, or finishing his feud with The Miz for the championship. I think that's kind of just all gone up in smoke. He'll be lucky if he gets a United States title opportunity at WrestleMania at this point.
I did feel the same thing of this is them saying, oh, you don't want to be committed. Well, we go all over the world, so I guess you can't be a main event star. Because I did think that Bryan had a shot.
I still think he does.
I
think that I could honestly see, if it was just Daniel Bryan, then I could see them being a little bit pettier. But I think that Roman Reigns being taken out of the card for WrestleMania really fucked them. And I don't know what the plan necessarily was. I was assuming that it was going to be a Shield triple threat, but, I don't think that can happen now. And there's a lot of factors actually that come into this. I mean, I can write it off as simple as AJ Styles beats Samoa Joe, but it might not be as simple as that. Survivor Series, for instance, is coming up. And if we get Braun Strowman going in as the Universal Champion, it makes more sense for him to fight Samoa Joe, because that's babyface heel, than it would be for him to fight AJ Styles, because then that's babyface. AJ Styles gets some more support. They end up going backtracking with Braun Strowman, that kind of a thing. But for one match on Survivor Series, I can see WWE being like, fuck it doesn't matter, knock it off, we don't care. However, The Miz has to be at least somewhere in the title hunt when it comes to AJ Styles. If Styles doesn't lose to Samoa Joe here, just to set up Survivor Series better, then The Miz has a good chance at beating AJ Styles at TLC. Or Randy Orton does. And if either of them fight Styles and beat him at TLC, there's no match at WrestleMania for Randy Orton or Samoa Joe or The Miz other than Daniel Bryan, really.
I don't know, because this whole thing was being built on AJ and Bryan, and Miz was kind of in the middle there, and there was no Miz interference, there was no anything. Bryan just got out wrestled and tapped out. That to me says, all right, they're definitely not going with Bryan for the foreseeable future.
And to play devil's advocate, I could see a scenario being that they said, let's have him tap out because our original plan was to have a DQ finish and we want to punish him, so we're going to make him tap out, because in either way, Styles would have retained. So the punishment is tapping out instead of taking a pinfall or doing a DQ. Because they could have very easily had Samoa Joe interrupt that match.
Yeah.
So it might be that they're feeling a little salty right now, but maybe having him tap out and do that is the punishment. And then when we get to a couple weeks from now, when they're starting to build, they've got Survivor Series on their mind, they're trying to figure out what they're going to do for TLC, they're trying to figure out Royal Rumble, they might revert back to well, fuck, we have to depend on Daniel Bryan, If not, the only way that I think that they were going to get anything out of WrestleMania is AJ Styles keeps it until WrestleMania.
I feel
and then he fights Randy Orton, I guess.
I feel like Joe is trying to be that guy that will eventually get something because he keeps saying yes. Like, they're like, fuck, we need somebody to beat AJ. Well, he already beat Joe 4 times. Doesn't matter, Joe, come here. Like,
plus he's injured too.
Yeah, he's coming back working hard for this one.
So
supposed anyway.
Between the fact that he's lost so many times to AJ Styles and he wasn't booked for this card and he's injured,
and also the fact that AJ Styles is a week away from having a year-long title reign.
Right.
oh,
And even though Survivor Series makes more sense with Braun Strowman and Samoa Joe, I can't see WWE valuing that enough to be able to do that. And they haven't said that they are for sure doing Universal Champion versus WWE Champion either. They could just avoid doing that. We could be in a scenario where I think the smart bet is AJ Styles retains.
I think it's the only option. Now that Callum just said that about him being a week away from year as champion, yeah, I think that's your only option. I was thinking Joe has to win here, but now that I hear that, I don't think he will.
Yeah, I was convinced that Joe's just a stopgap. AJ Styles will defeat him, and then he'll move on to whoever his next challenger is.
What if, putting it out there, and if anybody from WWE is listening, please, I'm doing your work for you. Send me fucking $5 towards the WWEshop.com or something like that. Give me one of those Triple H gift cards that he gives people in NXT. Just putting it out there. Somebody says to me, you've got a job. You need to book Crown Jewel now. What can we do coming out of this? My gut instinct says the thing that makes the most sense, Rey Mysterio beats Randy Orton in the World Cup. The Miz beats Jeff Hardy. Finals of the World Cup is The Miz against Kurt Angle. Baron Corbin screws over Kurt Angle. The Miz beats Kurt Angle in the World Cup. We lead to something with this whole Team Raw versus Team SmackDown thing where Kurt Angle says, you know what? I'm fucking sick and tired of Baron Corbin. I'm going to compete for Team SmackDown. That means The Miz stays on SmackDown because the SmackDown guy won. He is on the same team as Kurt Angle, which there's a conflict of interest there, especially if Kurt Angle becomes the captain of Team SmackDown and The Miz is like, what the hell, that kind of a thing or something like that. The Miz can use the World Cup tournament as a means to say, next week, after AJ Styles retains the championship against Samoa Joe here, The Miz goes, I won the World Cup. I am owed something I'm the best in the world. I want a title shot. And he beats AJ Styles on SmackDown. Last year, we had people switch championships before Survivor Series, very quickly before Survivor Series, like AJ Styles beating Jinder Mahal because they needed the book for AJ versus Brock Lesnar. That way, The Miz gets the WWE Championship. We have The Miz versus Braun Strowman. It's babyface heel. Braun Strowman can beat the shit out of The Miz. Nobody's gonna, be like, oh, Miz lost all his credibility. AJ Styles gets his rematch for the championship at TLC. He loses that match because Randy Orton interferes or something like that. That way it sets up AJ Styles, Randy Orton at WrestleMania. If you can't get Shawn Michaels, AJ Styles, whatever. Daniel Bryan can win the Royal Rumble or the Elimination Chamber to beat The Miz for the title at WrestleMania. It gives people a good feel-good kind of thing at WrestleMania. The Miz has the World Cup and the WWE Championship. AJ Styles has had his year-long title reign. Survivor Series is kept intact. The only person that loses out of this whole thing is Samoa Joe. There you go. Figured it out.
That's far too convoluted.
That was really... I was listening to you like, wow, he is really going here.
Oh, I kind of dozed off halfway through. I couldn't really look.
It works though, doesn't it?
It does.
I don't like it.
You put more thought into that statement than they have into
into 2018 booking.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with that. I still don't like it, but I agree that it's more fall out than anything WWE has been doing recently.
And I just fucking thought of it. Like, it's not that hard.
I think that they are going to end up merging the brands before they go to Fox, because I think that they're going to want a unified brand, so that way you can get AJ and Brock, and if Brock is still there next year, and Strowman and all these guys under one roof. So they might just end up saying, fuck it, let's not think about anything. WrestleMania will be, AJ versus Rollins. The winner is the undisputed champion of the world.
Maybe. I don't know. This is a mess. The Bar beats New Day, right?
Yeah.
Probably. It seems like the rest of the show, because we're definitely getting we're getting this World Cup champion, and we're crowning a new Universal champion. All the rest of the stuff can kind of really go into house show mode.
Well, that too is the New Day can beat the Bar for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship, and then that way they can do like the Authors of Pain or some other heel tag team like the Ascension. I'm assuming Authors of Pain win the tag team titles.
Are we going to go by the assumption that the tag team championships will also be like fought over at Survivor Series as well? The two sets of tag champions.
I'm working under the assumption that they're going to go with Raw versus SmackDown, because that requires no thought.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're doing it for a lot of the stuff anyway, but the issue with the tag team championships is that the Raw tag team championships are currently held by Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose.
Right.
I think
So
they're
they
going
would
to go
have to
Shawn
lose it.
Michaels and Diesel with that route. I think they're just going to go, I don't like you, and I don't need these belts. Fuck you.
Well, yeah,
And-
but there's a sense of, well, Rollins is also the Intercontinental Champion, so he would have to fight Shinsuke Nakamura at Survivor Series as well, so he'd have to do double duty.
And he wouldn't be able to team with Dean Ambrose if they're feuding. So I'm assuming next week on Monday Night Raw, Baron Corbin comes out. He goes, look, Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins are clearly not tag team champions. They're held in abeyance. They're vacated, whatever the case may be. We're going to have 3 matches tonight that are going to be a tournament to figure it out or something like that. And Authors of Pain win. That has to be it. Like, they can't really, I mean, unless it's like Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler win them back, or they want to go with like some random, like let's go with Gabe Glorious or something like that. Then like
a house party, baby.
They could. I mean, they brought them in there for some reason.
I mean, I'd want the revival, but I think that should.
Yeah, so would I. But,
Yeah.
But I give up on asking for nice things.
The easier call is that they probably would go with the Authors of Pain.
Yeah, which would
And
make
if they
the
go
New Day
with-
more sense.
Right. But they have been setting up the Usos, so maybe the Usos get a tag team title shot before Survivor Series and beat the Bar.
Really, Jey
And then
Uso should be fighting for the WWE Championship on this show, not Samoa Joe. Because he pinned AJ Styles in the tag team match recently, so
true.
it should really be. If this was New Japan, that's how it would work.
I don't
Well-
think we're getting Authors of Pain versus the Bar. I could see Authors of Pain versus the New Day. And I could see them switching the titles back just to be like, fuck, we need to do that for Survivor Series. And it's the tag titles. Who cares if it's a short title reign?
I'll say this: if they go with the Usos, I would accept the Usos versus Rollins and Ambrose, because that would somehow tie into all of the Roman stuff, and I can see them trying to make something happen there.
Well, yeah, I mean, on paper it would sound good, but that match can't happen because Ambrose won't fight with Seth Rollins.
And because if we get Rollins Nakamura, then that's double duty.
Yeah, so
Now, he's done double duty before and, that kind of a
right,
thing.
he
But
could
it's,
it'll be essentially him in a handicap match and then him facing Nakamura. And let's put it this way: if he had the handicap match, lost that, and then beat Nakamura, it makes Nakamura look pretty bad.
You
And
think that
if
they
he-
wouldn't?
I mean, they would, but like, it's not like I'm just trying to think logically about this, which I know is the mistake to be falling into. But it makes so much more sense that they just give the tag team titles to someone else in the build-up to Survivor Series.
it would need to be something like Seth Rollins beats Shinsuke Nakamura earlier in the night. And then later on in the night, he has to fight a handicap match against the Bar.
Yeah,
And then the Bar wins.
yeah, that would make more sense.
And then the Bar and the Big Show triple powerbomb Seth Rollins, and then they do the fist. because why not?
Because he had so that that alone is more effort than probably WWE's put into this. So the bar can retain, especially if they do that kind of handicap route, or they can retain because WWE just has no idea what they're doing, and then we can very easily get a mad rush for Survivor Series the week before Survivor Series, where everything changes.
I know we're never going back to these days of like when it was just the 4 pay-per-views, but I wish for the creative team's sake that they did, just because, man, this does not sound like fun, having to try to make sense out of all of this.
It's crazy enough for me to have to change everything. Imagine the people that are actually writing it, or at least trying to, when they are trying. What else do we have on this card?
Brock
We have
Lesnar.
Brock Lesnar versus Braun Strowman. That is going to be for the vacant Universal Championship, because Roman Reigns is obviously dealing with leukemia, if you have not been following, everything that's happening. So this was clearly not the plan, because it was going to be a triple threat. Braun Strowman was going to keep being a heel. They had to push all their plans up forward quite a bit. Here's the thing with Brock Lesnar. If you put the title on him, you're exactly back to where you were when you set up this entire year and a half's build worth of Brock Lesnar doesn't show up and doesn't do anything, and we need Roman Reigns to help save the day. But you also have to deal with him actually doing UFC instead of just it's an empty threat or something. Braun Strowman gets the title. You've got a replacement for Roman Reigns. You've got a guy who can actually hold the championship, actually defend the championship. He's a babyface again, so that works out. He's got a feud with Drew McIntyre. He can feud with Baron Corbin. He can feud with Bobby Lashley. They have to go with Braun Strowman.
They don't have to do anything. That is where you're wrong. They can easily go with Brock Lesnar. But I do think that we're going to go with Strowman here just because I can't see them with all of the negativity surrounding what's going on right now. I can't see them being like, yeah, let's go back to not having a champion on Raw. The only positive there is it would easily make Rollins and Ambrose for the Intercontinental title the thing on Raw. But I don't know. Because the thing is, I don't know if they wanted to go with Strowman. You know what I mean? I think that they wanted to go with just Roman winning in the triple threat and then moving on to,
right,
like Lashley or something.
Oh, if it would have been the triple threat, Roman would have retained, for sure.
With Brock Lesnar, they do have that star power and that, he's really going to UFC now. We know it's a fact. And Daniel Cormier is training at the Performance Center. We know that's the thing. So, I don't know. I'm up in the air with this.
So, here's the thing.
You're going to make the case for Lesnar, aren't you?
Well, let's put it this way. They just lost their biggest star. You have to think that Vince McMahon is panicking right now in the fact that they lost the guy who was likely going to be main eventing WrestleMania, likely holding the Universal Championship for at least the remainder of the year, maybe even further. What do? You go back to your biggest star. You give the title to Brock Lesnar. That way, you have your WrestleMania main event pretty much sewed up. You have Brock Lesnar, which is Brock Lesnar against
The Rock.
Well, it's essentially Brock Lesnar against insert name there. It could be Braun Strowman, it could be Drew McIntyre, it could be whoever you want to build up for this thing. The Rock, Batista, whoever you want to build up for that event. But the most important aspect of it is the fact that Brock Lesnar's on it. And I wouldn't be surprised that in their panic state with Roman out of the contest, especially if Roman is able to come back before WrestleMania, and then they have Roman come back as the conquering babyface and actually gets a good reaction beating Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. If they could somehow make that happen, then of course they're going to try and do it. But
I don't think that they would do that, but I will say, if they were to do that, Roman ain't getting cheered because people's warped minds would immediately think It was a work. You lied to us about leukemia. Because
I don't think people are that cynical. They're cynical. They'd be
you
cynical.
don't know the comments we're getting on WrestleZone.
Well, it's a sense of along the lines of, I think Lesnar's the huge star they've always had. He's going into UFC. He could be Universal and UFC heavyweight champion if things go like amazingly well. And Daniel Cormier has a stroke in the middle of the octagon and can't actually wrestle for some reason, because there's no way Lesnar's winning otherwise. But it's if that unlikelihood happens, then Lesnar becomes even bigger as the mainstream star as he already is already, and that makes WrestleMania bigger. I totally think Braun Strowman should be the Universal Champion, and they should be like we should have a Universal Champion that's there week in, week out. But I do fundamentally believe, first of all, it gives an opportunity for an AJ Styles Brock Lesnar match again, which we saw last year.
That's what I said to Tony.
And they might decide to use that opportunity to give AJ Styles his win back. I'd be surprised, but to be fair, Lesnar doesn't really mind if he wins or loses as long as he's getting paid. So it wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world. Even though TLC has advertised Braun Strowman against Drew McIntyre, that could be a number one contenders match. It doesn't say the championship is definitely involved in this point, because it might still be up in the air. And with the money they're getting from this deal and the upcoming billions for Fox and USA for the next television deals, they could definitely afford to pay Lesnar to appear at this, Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, and then WrestleMania, and then he can drop the title to whoever you want to.
I'll say this. If they put the title on Brock Lesnar, and we end up getting Brock Lesnar, AJ Styles repeat at Survivor Series, no champion popping up other than, Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, wasting all this money that they're trying to build for why they're doing the Crown Jewel on paying Brock Lesnar, having no real option for WrestleMania to go with Brock Lesnar, and denying Braun Strowman the title again, and having a WrestleMania where if I buy tickets and the goddamn Brock Lesnar match is the Universal Championship match, especially if it's against Daniel Cormier, or I don't even know, or it's him against Braun again, or him against Roman, which you can't depend on, or him against Rollins, or Brock Lesnar against anybody for the Universal Championship. And they undo this full year and a half worth from... Because I remember, this whole thing with Brock Lesnar starts with me being pissed at Kevin Owens losing to Goldberg. That's how long I've been annoyed with this Brock Lesnar thing. Because Kevin Owens only lost to Goldberg so Goldberg could lose the title to Brock Lesnar so he could lose it to Roman Reigns. And then they ended up spending an entire year on that. It's been a huge pain in the ass 2 years. If they put this title on Brock Lesnar here, I might stop watching. I might find a different way to make money. That's how pissed I am if they do that. Because I cannot defend it. I get the idea that, Vince might be hey, it might be kind of fun to have the Universal Champion hold that belt in the UFC. But it's fuck you, Vince. Don't do the weird distraction-y kind of thing. Don't act like you're a kid who is running away from a burning house and a little ember starts flying in a different direction, and then you go, ooh, and start following it. Don't get distracted. Go with Braun Strowman. Go with the logical thing. If they don't do that, I'm also going to have to say I think that WWE is lost without Bruce Pritchard. Because I could say Bruce Pritchard would be the type that would be you got to go with a Braun Strowman here. He's reasonable enough that he would understand that.
I think that they can go with Strowman because their last show, Strowman won this 50-man massive battle royal. And I think Braun Strowman's going to be over as fuck in Saudi Arabia if he beats Brock Lesnar.
And I have no faith in WWE that they can do something based off of the way that this year has turned out and the way that last year was fluctuating and everything. And these past couple of months with all these changes and stuff, I have zero faith that they can look at this and go, let's put it on Brock Lesnar and we'll figure it out. they won't figure it out. WrestleMania will be a mess. And if they put the title on Brock Lesnar, I might not buy tickets for WrestleMania. Because am I really going to spend $100 to $300 on a ticket and not know for sure what I'm getting when I know for pretty much a fact that I'm not getting Roman Reigns and I know that I'm getting Brock Lesnar? No, not going to do it. Put the title on Strowman. Don't be stupid. Fuck you if you do.
I think they put the title on Strowman. And this might be controversial to say because they had finally got me, Tony, right before SummerSlam. If you remember, I messaged you and I went, I get it with Strowman. He's super over. And they shit all over it. And they turned him heel. And now I don't think people care as much. I think Strowman winning would just be the benefit of, well, it's not Lesnar. And if you do that, then what is your hook going into Rumble and Mania? And there's no way Braun Strowman carries that title into WrestleMania if he wins on Friday.
Maybe. I don't know. They could put the title on Strowman and then have McIntyre win it and have somebody fight McIntyre at WrestleMania. Like, I don't know.
I think they need to, and this is a much bigger problem than they can fix right now, but they need to get over this idea of Mania being this. It's got to be these massive matches where legends fight each other, and the only current Superstar Championship matches we get are like fourth on the card. See AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura, you know?
I don't know. This is nerve-wracking. But gun to your head, who do you think they're going with, Lesnar or Strowman?
Brock Lesnar. And he'll fight John Cena at WrestleMania, and that's when John Cena gets his 17th World Championship.
And then
and then the entire internet wrestling community just dissolves.
No, I'm gonna put a cap on this, and then we flip it because Evolution happens, and Nikki Bella is a strong, empowering woman, and she proposes to John, and they get married right then and there. That is your WrestleMania 35 main event.
And then she beats John Cena for the title, so he has a 45-second title reign for his 17th historic win, and we get the first ever women's Universal Champion.
Because women run the universe.
Even worse, they get married in the ring, and then Nikki divorces him immediately, and she gets the title in the prenup.
Gun to my head after that bullshit.
And then Hulk Hogan.
Please, pretty please, put this championship on Braun Strowman. I don't think it's a great move. I would prefer Lesnar from a star power perspective, but we cannot go through another Brock Lesnar title reign. We cannot. And, oh God, Braun Strowman better win. But another thing we're not talking about here, this might be Lesnar's last match.
Maybe.
Like, who the hell knows?
And another thing, if we just kind of write this off as we'll get through Crown Jewel and we'll figure it out, they can figure out more of what to do with Braun Strowman as champion and play around with it more than Brock Lesnar. So it's just, even if you don't want to put the title on Braun Strowman all that much, you've got more flexibility. Like, they have to go with Braun Strowman. It's just the logical, like, you put out the fire and then you deal with it afterward.
You know,
you don't start trying to cook marshmallows.
In all seriousness, we were juggling around with Cena, but with the way Taker's been this year, I think they would try to have Taker beat Lesnar for the belt and then give John Cena his win back against Taker at WrestleMania 35 for the Universal title. That covers all of their basic check marks of having a major superstar from the past main event WrestleMania. You got Taker, you got John. I could see
that happening, but they would stretch it out like so the Lesnar Taker match happens at 35, and then Cena and Taker happens at 36. So they
See
stretch
that?
it out for a whole.
See that I don't want. The longest I would stretch it out with Taker would be Royal Rumble.
I don't want to
And
stretch out Taker too much because he'll probably break. But it's like.
But Taker has proven that he looks okay playing the hits, as okay as Flair looked in his retirement match. So I think they can do that. And honestly, if Brock Lesnar wins, then I think Undertaker, John Cena is the main event of WrestleMania for the Universal title.
Oh boy. Well, I'm gonna say, gun to my head, they're gonna go with Braun Strowman. I'm gonna hold the tiniest bit of optimistic faith that they're not gonna be completely insane, and that I won't just disintegrate. Undertaker and Kane, Brothers of Destruction, are fighting Triple H and Shawn Michaels, D-Generation X, in a match that is something that technically shouldn't have happened because Shawn Michaels was retired, but now he's not retired, but he might not wrestle more than this. But if he does, who is he going to fight? Because he could fight Undertaker 5 more times, or he could fight AJ Styles at WrestleMania, who may be the champion, who may not be, and all this other kind of, the chaos of trying to figure this stuff out is insane. But Undertaker lost to Triple H at a Super Showdown.
Correct.
You would think that would dictate that D-Generation X loses here to give Undertaker a win, but Shawn Michaels is return, and he can super kick Kane and win. And even though Brothers of Destruction would lose twice, my logic in my brain says Shawn Michaels needs to win his return match.
I am so pissed off that Shawn Michaels is coming back, and what would normally be the front and center piece of any wrestling show, Shawn Michaels coming back. And yeah, I take a bit of an issue with the fact that he's completely bald, but it's still Shawn Michaels, and he's still the greatest of all time, and nobody's talking about it because everybody's talking about just every other chaotic thing that has happened to make this inconsequential. So sorry, Shawn. True to your career, you're still not the biggest draw. But I gotta think Kane and Taker win it here. I don't know. Unless, and this was talked about briefly, Shawn pins Taker and they somehow do Shawn pins Kane and they somehow do Shawn and Taker at Survivor Series. But even that, I don't know, man. I saw him hit a very, very, very weak Sweet Chin Music on Monday. And I wasn't concerned about his comeback up until I saw that super kick on Monday.
I think the result of this match entirely depends on whether Shawn Michaels is wrestling beyond this match. If Shawn Michaels is this just a one and done situation, or he's only coming back from like big money paydays in Saudi Arabia or other events, then there's no issue with him losing this match against Kane and the Undertaker. But if you have visions down the line of Shawn Michaels coming back on more of a part-time schedule and wrestling the Undertaker down the line, or wrestling Triple H at some point, or wrestling like some of the new guys like Seth Rollins or AJ Styles or Daniel Bryan, then I'd say you have to have him pin Kane in this one. Under no circumstances should the Undertaker be pinned in this match.
No, I agree with that 100%.
Yep.
I mean, it's like a really weird situation with like this match, which seems to have a combined age of about 200 years or whatever, where you just talk about, well, if Michaels isn't coming back for the long term, then you should put the young guys over and put Kane and the guys that go turn up every now and again and stuff like that.
It's hard to figure out what their plans are going forward because, I mean, is Undertaker going to wrestle at WrestleMania? Maybe. Is Triple H going to wrestle at WrestleMania? Most likely. He probably will end up fighting Batista. Maybe he won't. Kane, I don't think we can count on for WrestleMania. Shawn Michaels, who knows? There's rumors of Shawn Michaels, AJ Styles. There's rumors of Shawn Michaels, Undertaker. Maybe they're going to try to do Shawn Michaels, Triple H at WrestleMania. And Batista's not in the mix because Batista's Hollywood career gets in the way too. But Batista's big commitment, Guardians of the Galaxy, is pushed until 2020 something. So that's even like, there's so many different pieces of the puzzle, and it's hard to put it together. But no matter what the scenario is, if DX wins, Kane has to take the pin. If The Undertaker and Kane win, Triple H, I think, needs to take the pin.
I really wish that the biggest story on the show was just this tag match, because there's so much fun story within the 4 characters that they haven't even touched upon. But this could have been a really fun, even if it's a one and done nostalgia trip match, it could have been a really good one. You know, you've got Shawn, who has been retired by The Undertaker twice. You got Hunter and Kane, who, you know, Triple H took Kane's mask, also accused him of murder, but that's another story. And then you have, you know, just the story of the WrestleMania with the guys. Those 3 WrestleManias. And it's such a good story. And I just hate that it's like, yeah, here's this tag match that totally seems likely in 2018. And maybe the one pair of old guys will win who are telling people to suck their dicks. And maybe it'll be the Dead Wizard and the Demented Mayor. I don't know, but Hulk Hogan is here. It's just such a fucked up show. And gun to my head, I'm going DX. Because Shawn Michaels should win his return match. But at the same time, it is The Undertaker.
I think I'm going DX too.
It's pretty like it's a different situation for me than you guys, because I don't hold Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker to the same level that you guys do. Neither of them have, I mean, I don't like discount their like longevity and their abilities and how much they're beloved by their fan bases, but they're just like not on that level. And Triple H certainly is nowhere near that level to me. And Kane is I probably like Kane out of everybody in this match, probably the most, which is the weirdest situation to be in.
Yeah, but you don't like chocolate or
Yeah,
pizza.
that's
So.
Yeah.
what I was gonna say.
I'm not saying I'm right all the time, but I think in this situation, my main fault, hoping of coming out of it, is the sense of I don't want to come out feeling like, yeah, Michael should have stayed retired, which is unlikely because Michael has always shown that when he came back the last time, he was just as good as, if not better, than when he left, and so he'll probably still be like in really good condition. But I don't just want him to come out and say, yeah, that was it's okay. Just 4 old guys fighting each other. It would have been so much better 10 years ago or whatever. But I think they'll have DX win, and Michaels isn't quite done in the ring yet.
Do you think that they do the whole DX shtick?
I think they tone it down.
Because I've been thinking about that since this match was announced. Like, how do you go, you know, for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, let's get ready to suck it. Like,
I mean, they could just change it.
Yeah.
Let's get ready to shut it instead.
I think he's just going to be, are you ready?
Or they'll tease saying it, but they'll just say something else instead.
let's get ready to gong.
They'll just go, let's get ready. Yeah, they can do, let's get ready to gong, or they go, let's get ready to, no, we're taking this seriously because this is about respect. And then they just go into like,
And respect is out the window.
Oh my god, this event. This could be the most interesting pay-per-view that we've had in years, or it could be the absolute biggest train wreck in the history of WWE if some certain things happen and stuff. And
well, they pulled it out of the fire at Evolution, so let's just hope for the best. Let's hope they don't have to pull something literally out of the fire in this situation.
either way, all 3 of us are going to be watching it.
Yeah.
Will you be watching it, Cal?
The situation in the time, it's I probably won't be able to watch the first hour because I'll still be at work. But other than that, I should be able to watch it. I feel bad. I don't feel good that I'm going to watch it, but I am going to watch I don't even have the excuse that you two have because you two are paid to talk about wrestling. I don't have that.
I took off from my WrestleZone shift because with the way this show has been, I'm afraid I'm gonna have to be reporting like somebody just died at Crown Jewel, and I don't want to do that because this show is just ridiculously snake bitten. So I'll be watching just for the purposes of the review show with Smark Out Moment, and I hope that they don't spend the first hour gushing over Saudi Arabia because I might turn it off.
I hope that they don't spend 30 seconds gushing over that because they shouldn't. But God knows. Either way, we will be giving you some kind of breakdown when it comes to the post show. Of course, everybody, make sure you tune in for that. And the way that you should be aware of when that gets posted is to subscribe on the YouTube channel and ring the little bell for notifications. Just check that off and you will get the email alert that is being posted. I've been trying to do the premiere things. So if that is something that's working, you'll probably get a little alert that says that it's going to premiere at some point pretty soon. And it'll usually be an hour or so after that, depending on how long and how big of a file it is and stuff like that. But I'm going to try to figure out a way to make that a little bit shorter and everything. Either way, that's a way to be aware. If you follow us on Facebook and Twitter, you will also see alerts when it comes to that, because those posts will be put up there or on smarkoutmoment.com. If you enjoyed this, which I think that this was a pretty good podcast at the very least, as much as the conversation's going, because this is a mess of a thing, and for us to break it down the way that we did, I think still pretty kind of fun and entertaining. If you support us, then that's great in any way that you possibly can, whether it's giving us a like, favoring us, subscribing, sharing us, or showing a little bit of help on the monetary side of things with the spare change that you have that you can attribute to the Patreon or the TeePublic and Redbubble shops. Those are all greatly appreciated. Also, give your support to fanboysanonymous.com for everything that's happening there. Follow all the stuff that we've got going on our Twitter accounts and all the other kind of stuff like that. Callum, what do you want to toss out?
You can follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14, and then just the weekly stuff on Smark Out Moment. I'll be doing the power rankings after Crown Jewel, so I can take that into account for this week. But yeah, just check out all the other weekly stuff.
And for me, you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter at DudeFelice. You can check out WrestleZone.com for your daily wrestling news, which is how I was able to break the news in the middle of this thing that Hulk Hogan has been confirmed as the host of Crown Jewel. So we got all that fun stuff over there. And I'll be going live in about 45 minutes on WrestleZone's Facebook page with the WrestleZone daily live stream on Facebook. So WrestleZone.com, doing the triple threat for Smark Out Moment, previewing Crown Jewel, and reviewing Evolution. And yeah, TimekillerApparel.com, because, you know, that's what I do outside of wrestling. And if more people support me there, I can put more time and effort into that, especially because should Brock Lesnar win, Tony might not be doing this anymore. So keep that in mind, guys. A chance. And yeah, that's it for me.
All right, everybody, that's it for me too, especially if Brock Lesnar wins. And, thank you for listening to this. We will see you next time. This has been another Smark Out Moment, and we're being counted out.